Good morning. Welcome to week 10, last week. This is lecture 1, and I'm going to talk about in-text citation because that's the last piece of the MLA puzzle, and you're going to need to have that in your tool belt for the final project. Last week I talked about the 3 areas where your format style is the boss of you, right? And that was formatting, just general formatting, what the paper looks like, where your name goes, where the page numbers go, is it double spaced, are there font requirements, right? Formatting. Bibliography, which in MLA is called a works cited list. APA calls it a references list, but for you it's going to be a works cited list. And that is the cumulative list, alphabetized, double-spaced, hanging indented, of every source you have used in your work. And then the last piece of the puzzle is the most complex, and that is in-text citation, because it's not enough to just provide a list of all the sources you've used. You also need to, within the paper, mark where you've used an outside source, what outside source that was, and if possible, where the information you ganked existed in that source. So there's different ways of doing this. Parentheticals is what we're going to use. Some styles use footnotes or endnotes, but the way MLA chooses to do it is by inserting a brief parenthetical reference wherever you bring in an outside source. And you want to keep those parenthetical references as brief and few as possible. And that's important for readability. And so what MLA typically requires is the author last name or authors and the page number if the source is paginated. There are exceptions to this, of course, because sometimes you find sources that don't have authors. That happens with reference books. If you find any information in Gale eBooks, which is my favorite database, sometimes those articles are unsigned, and also it can happen a lot on in the web, especially when you're using information from like government agencies or organizations that it's kind of a corporate author situation. We don't have a named author. So this information just comes from the organization, comes from the agency. So in that case, you will begin your citations not with an author, because you have no author, but with the title of the source. And so that carries over to in-text. Whatever your citation starts with, whether it's the author, an author last name, or a title, that's what goes into your in-text. And then the page number if your source is paginated. So I've got some material in the module on this. I want you to look at it carefully. This is another area where I groan inwardly at my lack of ability to work with you guys in a lab scenario, because the in-text takes some time and practice, and we don't really have time for that. So let me just say it's really important. It's really important for the grade of your final project, because one of the things I grade you on is your sources. And it's not enough to just have the list. You can't just have sources on the list. I need to see where in the paper you use these sources and how you use them. If you've used them effectively to answer a research question, for instance. And so that in-text citation is going to be really, really important. I've got a lot of information, like I said. I've got me talking about it, written form. I've included a nice introduction to in-text citation from the MLA organization itself. I have a handy-dandy little checklist that goes over some of the more particular rules. For instance, in front of page numbers, you don't put a P or a PP, which you do in other styles like APA. MLA, it's clean as a whistle. Author, last name, number. There's no P, there's no number sign, there's no PP, there's no comma between the author name and the page number. It's just clean as a whistle. Punctuation is really important. Lots of students want to end the sentence with a period and then do the citation, and MLA wants that the in-text citation, that parenthetical with, that comes before the punctuation. So there's little rules like that. So because they're complicated, I do have a checklist. If you've never used MLA, it can be challenging. So I'm just going to once again say I am completely available. If you want to give it a try, I've got a nice, I gave you a little sample of like an introductory paragraph to a paper in which I've incorporated 3 different outside sources. So you've got an example to look at. So I would suggest that you follow that example. And then if you need any help, just come to me. And you don't have to go through the laborious task of making an appointment. You can just email it to me at, email a Word file and say, look, I've made a stab at in-text citation. Is this right? Because that allows me to either give you the go ahead, you're perfect, or you'll likely make a few little mistakes and we can catch those before you turn your paper in. And that's a teachable moment for me, that I get to help you. No, this is wrong because your punctuation's in the wrong place. And here's the rule that says that's true. That's how you'll learn. Just practice. I've also included the MLA stuff from last week, the formatting the paper with the little video and the sample paper and information about citing your sources and how to cite sources. Because again, in your final project, MLA is a big part of it. You get if you look at the rubric later, you'll see that MLA formatting is its own little category, your sources, and your in-text citation. And the in-text citation, I will say, is extra important, because if I can't see where you've used those outside sources, you not only then lose points on the in-text, but then the sources. I just assume you just stuck this on your list and didn't use it in your paper, so it doesn't count as a source. So let's take advantage of my offer to help, because it's really easy to do. In fact, if you don't feel comfortable asking me for help, you can just drop into chat. And any librarian on chat, there's a way you can can I send this to you, and just make sure I'm headed in the right direction in terms of in-text. Once you can do one paragraph, that incorporates an outside source or 2, I think then you can use your own work as a model, right? Okay, so that's that. Do review how to format a paper. Do review the in-text, or the in-text, and the how to cite sources. Remember that when you copy and paste a citation from a database, they sometimes make errors, and it is up to you to correct those errors. And in our meetings, I try to go over that if you had errors. The errors are super common, and they have to do with capitalization. Sometimes you'll find a source in a database that is written in APA format, which does sentence level capitalization. So when EBSCOhost grabs that citation for you, I think it just takes the title field, if that makes sense to you. So if the article is written in APA, it gives you the title in APA, and that is not correct for MLA. MLA wants major title words capitalized, all the major title words. So you don't have to do connectors like and or the or prepositions, but otherwise capitalize. Related to capitalization, no locked caps. Every once in a while, EBSCOhost will stick an author name in locked caps. Not correct. No matter how it appears in the original source, MLA wants it like MLA wants it. So standard capitalization on names. And then occasionally a database will leave off the URL which is an important field, the location field, that's a huge red flag for me. Because if I don't see a URL, a web address, I assume you have a printed source. And that's weird because we're not really looking at printed sources. It's pretty rare for this assignment. So if the URL isn't there, notice that and put it in. And also remember that MLA does not want the HTTPS://. If your database gives you that, you just delete it from your site. Anyway, those are some of the major errors that databases can make. Watch your own capitalization. Oh, and sometimes when you paste, if you inadvertently paste as plain text, you'll take off the italics, and the italics are very important for delineating the containers. So journal names, database names are italicized, and databases do a pretty good job with that. But sometimes when we paste them onto a document, especially EBSCO can give you weird highlighting. And so we get in the habit, I do, of just plain text, pasting it. And then I have to go back and add the italics. But again, if you just come to me before you turn your paper in and say, would you look at my MLA? I won't pre-read your paper and grade your paper, but I will definitely, because we don't have time to work on this in a classroom setting, I will look at your formatting, I will look at your sources, I will look at the way your sources are cited, and I will look at your in-text. And we can nip any problems in the bud before you turn it in. So there's really no reason you shouldn't have perfect scores on all of that if you take advantage. Okay. Have a good week. Any questions about in-text, drop into the MJC Ask a Librarian. Any librarian can help you. I am going to be creating appointments, but you don't need an appointment with me. You can make one if you want, but you can also just email me questions. And I'm here for you this week, like in a big way. Okay. See you in the class.